So I finally played and beat Unicorn Overlord. Funny enough, I actually downloaded and quit the game a year ago when it first came out after about 5 minutes, but before we get into that, I have to explain a little bit about myself. See, I have a very specific taste in strategy games, and by that, I really just mean Fire Emblem. I don't usually mess with real-time strategy. Maybe it's because I think I'm too dumb for it, or maybe I just don't like the genre. I don't really know. The only RTS I ever really tried and liked was Halo Wars, so yeah, I don't know how to make sense of that. So basically, I'm a grid, turn-based kind of guy when it comes to strategy. Again, Fire Emblem. I tried triangle strategy once, saw the 4-directional tile thing, and closed out of the game midway through getting backstabbed. Which is why a year after its release, Unicorn Overlord caught me completely off guard. So like I said, I first played the game when it launched. I downloaded the demo, played for about 10 minutes, saw Elaine's mom and the enemy moving at the same time, and immediately quit. I thought it was a full-on real-time strategy game, not my thing. Then about a year later, I saw a YouTube video popped up in my recommended, where someone paused the game mid-combat to issue commands. And I was just like, bruh, ain't no way. So I re-downloaded the demo, played more than 2 seconds, and not even an hour later, I bought the full game. I was hooked. At first, it felt exactly like what I wanted. A strategy game that was easy to get into like Fire Emblem. But the deeper I got, the more I realized, I don't think Fire Emblem even comes close to this level of combat depth. It reminded me of how Baldur's Gate 3 completely rewired how I think about decision making in games. Like, wait, games can do this? Unicorn Overlord was kind of like that for me for the combat aspect, except in the strategy game department. Also, minor spoilers. I was 3 hours in and couldn't stop thinking about everything. 2 weeks went by and I hadn't updated my notes. I was 30 hours deep. I finally felt like I had the hang of the tactics. Nothing too crazy, but I was actually spending time planning out the tactics to make each unit most effective. But then I hit a wall. Before, my units were mowing everything down, and suddenly it felt like they were just average. Except Elaine's unit, but I'm pretty sure he's just busted. So I figured it was time. Blow everything up and start over from scratch. Try something more specialized, like I had with my all-cavalier squad. A couple critiques started to form too. First, I hate the idea of a timer in strategy games. I played on normal, so I never ran out of time or even came close, but just knowing it's there kinda turned me off. Timers would make so much sense in some missions, but that brings me to my other issue. There's almost no objective variety, at least in the early and mid-game. I was nearly done with Dragonhold, like 30 hours in, and almost every mission was hold your stronghold, capture theirs. The only one that felt different was when you had to defend the Colosseum from every direction. That one was sick. You had preset choke points, barricades, catapults, all of it. It actually would have been a perfect mission for a timer. Survive a siege for X amount of minutes or whatever. As for the story, I don't really have anything great or terrible to say about it. It was serviceable in my opinion. The characters were solid enough, and there were a few twists that kept me interested, even if it wasn't super emotionally gripping. Although I will say, the true ending actually caught me off guard. Let's just say they didn't reuse the same story beat that every Fire Emblem game in recent memory feels obligated to include. If you know, you know. And I kept hoping more missions like the Colosseum one would show up. And to be fair, they did. Just slowly. The Elf region had you rushing to put out fires before the forest burned down, which technically was still capture the command posts, but at least the framing was different. The Beast Kingdom had one where you had to intercept a prisoner before they reached a checkpoint, and then the victory conditions changed mid-mission. That was a nice surprise. Still, even with those changes, I think this game could have done way more with the objective variety. Like, why not have an actual escort mission where you only get a handful of squads? Or a full stealth map with fog of war and no reinforcements? The potential's there, it just felt like it wasn't used fully. Around the 45-hour mark, things really started to click. But this game, it kinda depends on your mood, and I guess what you like in games. Some days, I'd spend a full hour just tweaking my tactics and testing new setups. Other days, I'd just rush through the missions with whatever worked because I just wanted to progress. The complexity is kind of a blessing and a curse. On one hand, I had these hyper-optimized squads where everyone felt locked in, knew their own role. But then I'd have 2 or 3 leftover units I had no clue what to do with. and I didn't always feel like spending another hour theory crafting just to make them somewhat on par with my other units. But the fact you can do that you can go that deep, is what makes this game so impressive. It actually made me appreciate Fire Emblem's simplicity a bit more, but also showed me what a higher skill ceiling really looks like. I finished the game right around the 60-hour mark. Okay, I lied. Spoiler warning. There's a tiny bit of post-game content, one final side quest that ended up unlocking characters like your mom and the lady who wanted to shove your dad's soul into your body just to bang him. Yeah, that happened. And don't get me wrong, being able to get those characters is awesome, but I wish there was more to actually do with those characters. Sure, you can replay the Coliseum, the final battle, and that last side quest, but I would have loved just a few extra missions with some story weight to them. Even something like the post-game content in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon would have been great. Randomized maps, a little narrative, some kind of wave-based survival mode in a mystical forest. I don't know, something. Because as much as I loved unlocking those final characters, I just didn't have a reason to actually use them. So yeah, Unicorn Overlord really surprised me. I went from dropping it after 10 minutes to putting 60 plus hours into it. And honestly, I'm still thinking about it. It's not perfect, but it's the kind of game that makes you engage with its systems in a way that I don't think recent Fire Emblems have made me. And whether you're a Fire Emblem fan or just looking for something deeper, I think this one's worth trying, especially because the demo, as far as I'm aware, has no limits. It's just 5 hours of whatever you want to do, and progress carries over. Anyways, that's all I've got. Thanks for watching, and if you played Unicorn Overlord, let me know how deep you got into tinkering with the tactics, because I know I only scratched the surface.